the show, we have Kelly Mello. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Hi.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Kelly is a graduate from the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, with a degree in English, Communications and Rhetoric in '06. And from there, she built up her portfolio by writing online publications and eventually landed a job as editorial assistant for Gatehouse Media. She did everything from reporting to taking out the recycling. In 2010, she began her career with Patch and launched the Norton Patch website. She covered town meetings, education, arts, business, and much more. And as part of Kelly's work with the Patch, she recruited bloggers, provided support to readers to post press releases, events, other items for groups for Patch users. She also helped develop conversations on Facebook pages for those sites. And Kelly is now the editor for Needham and Wellesley Patch, recently got married, and in her spare time she enjoys kayaking, reading, camping, hiking in the outdoors. So we'll make a geologist of you yet.
I don't know about that.
Well, it's awesome to have you here, Kelly. So I want to ask you, why Patch?
Well, I've always loved writing. It's basically the only thing I've ever been good at. And I just went to school for English, as you mentioned, and I figured journalism might be the way to go. Learning about the community and providing information to readers, it's a really interesting job.
So if someone were to come up to you and call you actually a computer programmer or a technology person, would you be surprised?
Yes, I would be, because when it comes to like HTML or any of that kind of stuff, I have no idea. I just provide content for the website.
But you do a fair amount of technology work, computers and posting, and blogging takes a fair amount of technology know-how.
I suppose so. I just don't know how it all works. If you were to ask me how a computer works, I have no idea.
So what do you prefer, Apple or DOS?
I don't know. I've very much grown accustomed to Apple working with Patch. They give us our own laptops when we first come on.
That's nice of them.
Yes, it is. And it's a very fast computer, so I do enjoy that. But I do miss having a desktop computer sometimes. I'm always attached to my laptop. It's hard to separate work from, hanging out with my husband.
Which is a good thing, right? You just take the computer everywhere you go. You can do both at once.
True. Right now I'm living in a studio apartment, so it's even harder to have our own me time versus work time.
So you haven't done taken the duct tape out and taped across half the apartment?
No, not yet.
This is your side of the dorm room and this is mine.
Not yet. So we're looking for a house, so hopefully we won't have to deal with that.
And I have to say congratulations, you recently got married.
Yes, I did.
So that must be a big change for you.
A little bit. I've known him for about 13 years now, and we dated for about half that time, so it's not that much of a change.
Well, good. So now you're a new editor and you're a new wife.
Yes.
It's a big year.
Yes, it is.
So, and I have to point out, today is a very special day. It happens when you come in today. So today is 11/12/13.
Yep.
So we really should have done this whole talk at 9:10, like I was saying earlier.
We should have. Oh well.
Oh well. Next time. Yeah, in about 100 years or so, 1,000 years or so. So in your opinion, what was the inspiration for starting a site like The Patch?
Well, I believe the owner wanted a website where people could find all the information they needed about their town in one place. Because usually people go to several newspapers, a few different websites, a town website, library website, and Patch really wanted to just have one central location for everything. And it's actually not a news website, it's kind of a misconception. It's more of a community website where everybody is supposed to contribute, because I'm only one person and I can't be everywhere. So
are you sure about that? You seem like you are, though.
I try to be, but it's impossible.
And there's several patches. I found like there's at least 10 patches around this area. So you see, potentially you could be everywhere.
I could be. I mean, right now my attentions are divided between Wellesley and Needham. So, I mean, if you want to blog, feel free to blog, post your events, your press releases. I will take any help I can get.
and so to access that would be, you'd look up wellesleypatch.com?
It's wellesley.patch.com.
And then it'll tell you how to navigate and set up your own blog. So let me ask you, what does blogging, for example, provide for the public as opposed to reading the Townsman?
Well, Wellesley and Needham, they know their town the best. I'm kind of a newcomer to town, so if people want to share their opinions about a subject, they might have more insight than I do, and it allows people to kind of sound off on that subject and have a conversation with their neighbor about that subject.
Interesting. So could you share with us a little patch history? So how has the patch grown since it first started?
Oh, let's see. Well, there's well over 800 sites now. I'm not quite sure how many there are, but I believe it was Tim Armstrong who began the patch website, and as I mentioned earlier, he wanted one place for everything, and it has since grown leaps and bounds.
And there's certainly a need for it. I'm not really sure what that need is, but there's definitely a need for it in addition to other sources like, for example, the Townsman and the Wellesley Weston magazine that comes out and other sources of information around town.
People aren't buying print publications as much anymore because they figure they can get their information for free, and Patch is one of those places where they can get that information for free. So it's more with the times, I guess you could say.
So what's your favorite section to read on the Patch when you're up late at night checking out all your different Patch stuff?
Well, actually, when I'm up late at night, it's usually writing for Patch. I get most of my work done around 2 o'clock in the morning.
When it's quiet.
I really enjoy the stories about the people themselves and human interest stories, I would say.
Awesome. So are you required to check in to work, or can you work from home?
I work from home mostly.
Mostly. Oh, good.
Yep. Again, 2 o'clock in the morning, me in my PJs, my laptop with a little light over.
Awesome. And what kind of stuff do you post as opposed to other people who post stuff?
Well, I post on a variety of subjects. I do sports, town government, school, arts and entertainment. Other people, they all chime in on a variety of subjects as well. Let's say, well, I know Wellesley Dental Group, they just posted their blog about a candy drive, and that was a huge success. So that's actually featured right now on Wellesley Patch.
Oh, awesome. And so you're mostly posting news stories or events around town and things that are happening, and then other people would post opinion pieces on it.
And events.
And events. Interesting. So let me ask you this question. So I like to ask people who come in here, especially the women, I like to ask them if you've heard about the American women's movement. And the way that you grew up, was that like something in your life that you grew up hearing about, listening to? Was that did that make any kind of impact?
When I was growing up, I was fortunate to have parents and teachers who never said boys had to be one thing, girls had to be another. So I went through phases where I wanted to be a fireman, a policewoman, a teacher. I never stuck with one thing for too long, although writing, as I mentioned earlier, has been the one thing that I've always enjoyed doing.
Right.
But being a female, I never thought that I was bound to one area in life.
Awesome. And did your parents ever, did your mother ever bring it up with you, or did you ever discuss it in school, just as a movement in this country?
Well, as far as like women voting, I mean, obviously that was an important part of history.
Right. It's interesting, I ask people this because this is actually also the 50th anniversary of Betty Friedan's Feminine Mystique. So I always ask people if they know about it or still know about it, or what they think about it or what they've heard about it. So it's interesting. Did you have anyone, teachers, parents, anyone who inspired you into pursuing the career that you're currently on?
Well, my father was more of the science math guy. My mom was always the more arts and writing person. So I would say I definitely followed more in her footsteps.
And what does your dad do?
I forget the technical term, but he works with chemicals and cleans labs and things like that.
Oh, interesting. And your mom, did she do a lot of writing?
She used to. She is big into carousel horses, so she used to have a newsletter that she would send out to friends and different carousels all over the nation. Right now she works for Titleist, so that was more of a hobby of hers.
Oh, interesting. That's a very unique thing to do. That's fun. It was fun. So let me ask you, what advice, if anything, would you offer to graduating seniors?
just keep at it, keep trying. You've got to build up your portfolio if you're going into the writing industry. You're going to get a lot of no's. You might not get paid the best, but if you love it, just keep at it.
So, and that's what I was going to ask you, is there are people who graduate, who are graduating this year, for example, who are interested in going into liberal arts and writing, maybe even being an author. How would they start? What would you advise that they do while in high school in order to prep for this?
Well, there are a lot of writing websites. I wrote for a website called helium.com a lot, and that's how I started building up my portfolio. But now, Patch, we can offer you a chance as well. I mean, people who are, I believe, age 14 and older can have a blog, so you can start there, cover your high school sports if you want, or your organizations or clubs, or just town issues even. You can write about anything on Patch and we'll publish it.
Does Patch have a site for poetry or short stories or stuff
Again,
like that?
more of a blog. If they any creative writing, definitely.
And what are some of your favorite sites for writing? Do you do additional sort of writing beyond the Patch?
I don't have time for that anymore,
4 o'clock
unfortunately.
in the morning, perhaps?
No, most of my writing, especially now that I have 2 sites to run,
Right.
it's all Patch. But I really enjoyed helium.com while I was writing for them.
And what kind of stuff did you put on there?
Everything and anything that I knew about.
Did you like fiction or nonfiction or poetry?
I really enjoyed writing nonfiction.
Right, so you would pick a person, like a friend, and then you would write something about that person and make it into a story.
Yep, I actually also did a lot of fiction as well. Short stories, I feel, are also kind of in my niche because I have a hard time focusing on one thing for too long. So if it's a short story,
it grabs your attention.
Yes.
And it's doable. You can finish it before
Exactly.
your 2 a.m. deadline.
Yes, I've tried writing novels, especially this is National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. I've attempted doing that several times. This year it's not going so well. But short stories definitely provide you the chance to complete an entire story.
And do you think that's where the writing trends are going these days? That people are preferring maybe short stories rather than to longer novels?
Absolutely. I think, well, online especially, people's attention spans are very short. They kind of look at the first 2 paragraphs and then skim the rest of the story.
Right.
So, yes, the shorter, I would say, the better. Just get to the point.
Right. And I know that Dartmouth has a wonderful creative writing program. So let me ask you your opinion on it. What do you think of all these writing programs and competitions out there?
It's definitely a good platform for people to get their name out there. Helium, they had a contest. I entered in that. Temper magazine at UMass Dartmouth, I submitted my work there. It all helps.
Oh, awesome. Nice. So tell us some of the books you love and why.
I am a huge fantasy nerd, so I love the Harry Potter series, Lord of the Rings. Right now I'm trying to get through the Dragon Riders of Pern series, so a lot of fantasy.
Game of Thrones.
I have yet to start Game of Thrones. I saw the first season. I still need to catch up.
Do you prefer Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, although the newest Star Trek movies are pretty awesome.
And have you seen the new release? What is that? The series with was it Chris Hemsworth?
Oh, the Avengers and Thor.
The whole, yeah. What do you think of those?
It's fun.
Yeah.
Thor isn't my favorite character. He is fantasy, which I usually like, but kind of dorky in a way.
Interesting. Interesting. So, what's one thing, if I had to ask you for one thing about your current job that you love, what would it be?
I would say the hours. It's very nice having flexible hours, working at home in my pajamas every once in a while. But
are you
also,
one of those people with the bunny slippers?
I have raccoon slippers.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yes.
Perfect.
I also just love meeting people and getting to know the town that I'm covering.
So let me ask you about an embarrassing story. So tell us about something embarrassing, a fun, embarrassing story when you first started working for Patch. What would it be?
Well, when I first started, I had no idea how to cover town meeting. It was way beyond my level at that point, but once I went to my first town meeting, I asked the opinions of other writers. I was able to do it, but the first one was it was tough. It was tough.
So what happened at this town meeting? Like just knowing when to ask questions, or taking notes or?
Just knowing how to write the story itself. It's a lot of information to take in, and if it's your first town meeting, you don't know what's going on in the town yourself. So to explain to other people, it's difficult.
And what's the hardest part about writing it for you? Is it the start, like the first sentence?
I would say definitely the start, the lead. Once you get the lead, you can kind of build off of that, and you just kind of keep rolling.
And is it also picking the title for the story?
The headline isn't as bad because we're writing for search engine optimization, so the keywords that Google's going to pick up. So that tends to be pretty straightforward. On Facebook, you get to be a little bit more creative.
Right, that's interesting. When I took writing classes way back when in the Paleozoic, they always told you to start with a quote or start with some interesting saying, and now that's just really not the case. Writing has really changed.
I would agree.
How do you feel should you launch right into your stories when you're doing, and you do mostly events and news stories, so do you just launch right into it and say, today this happened, or today I'm covering the town meeting?
Well, the very first sentence, you just want to get the basic information out there to everybody, the who, what, where, when, why kind of deal. And then I would say I would go into like the quote and try to get more in depth into the story.
Interesting. So when you do stories, do you basically report the straight facts, or do you try to figure out some of the backstory as well?
I do both.
And how much license do you have with like telling the backstory?
Well, again, I don't want to lose readers because their attention spans are kind of short. So the very top, I'll provide them the facts and the main issues, and then give them a backstory, and hopefully they'll read it.
Wow, that's awesome. So tell me about some of the fun places you've been to, camping, hiking, and outdoorsy stuff.
Well, I hiked Mount Katahdin in Maine a couple of times. That was fun. Very tough, especially if you're out of shape. The first time I was very much out of shape. Kayaking, I enjoy going all over the place. Maine is probably the place I go to the most for those types of things. But here in Massachusetts, I kayaked the Norton Reservoir, Long Pond and Lakeville.
Awesome.
Camping all over, New Hampshire, Massachusetts.
And do you have siblings?
No, I'm the only child.
You're the only child. Wow. Did you have a dog growing up?
I've always had animals in my house. Yeah. Right now I have my buddy Achilles.
Oh, nice.
He's at home.
And it's a dog?
Yes.
Oh, what an awesome name for the dog. So what's the backstory on this name?
Well, me and my mom actually have been known to take in strays. And this dog was probably a hunting dog. A hunter probably brought him out in the woods, and he decided he was more of a lover and not much of a hunter. So he kind of just stopped by our house and laid on the porch, and then I noticed his back leg, it was like a cut or something, and he was limping, so the Achilles heel, Achilles.
Yeah, nice. How cute. That's a great name for a dog. I had a friend who named her dog Chaos, and it was a good name because he was everywhere, and he chewed through everything.
Oh, no.
But he's an awesome dog.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, Kelly. Feel free to share anything else you might want to add about the patch.
Nothing in particular, except if you want to contribute, feel free to go to wellesley.patch.com. We have our little tabs that say blogs, events, the announcements board. So if you have anything that you would like to share, please feel free. I'm new to the area, so any information you can give me would be greatly appreciated.
And what's your turnaround time when someone wants to post something?
It goes up right away, automatically.
Awesome. Well, there you go, because we know that we have you working for us all night long.
Exactly.
Good to know. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kelly. This was so much fun.
Yes, thank you.